They will love the alcohol, la 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 la. Just line them up and we will drink them all, la 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 la. But my mother always said, if you want to drink all day, you best start in the morning, son, 'cause that's the Irish way. We don't get drunk, we get awesome, and every other mother will agree. We don't get drunk, we get awesome, so order up around for you and me. We don't get drunk, we get awesome, and every mother must agree. We don't get drunk, we get awesome, so order up around for you and me, and you and me, and you and me. Let there be whiskey!
Hey, everybody! Welcome to Nerds with Alcohol. I'm Chris.
I'm Russ.
And I'm Scott.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, welcome back, Scott.
Perfect. Welcome back to the virtual nerd basement. Chris, what episode is it?
This is episode 222.
That's right,
All
222.
Just like all twos,
in the
like
nerd
my
basement.
first wedding anniversary.
Yeah, that's right. Ooh, that's right.
20202.
How about
Hey, CD. Hey, Ghost Dan.
Hey, great. A couple of our regulars. What was it? Sunday? No, Saturday. Did you guys listen to the final countdown?
No, I did not.
Because it was 4,
3,
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, no, I did not.
It was stupid.
You were supposed to listen to Space Oddity as well.
Yes,
Major
exactly.
Tom.
Yes, welcome back, everybody. It is beautiful.
It was actually Coming Home. Major Tom was the one you're supposed to listen to, because that's the one that does the 4, 3, 2, 1.
Right. Yeah. But it has been a beautiful day here in lovely Michigan. It was a high of 75 today.
Yeah, it was a nice summer day.
Yeah, nice summer day. Scott, were you guys cooking in your own juices down there?
Yeah, it was about 89.
Oh, my God. 89 in April. That's something. I mean, it's not, and I shouldn't be that shocked. I mean, I've been down there enough times in early April to know what it's like, but it's still just, oof.
It was hot. It was hot today. Maybe 89 in the direct sunlight. But I think that it said temperature was supposed to be 84, 85. It was hotter than that. I guarantee you.
Yeah, they said,
I love it.
They
I
said
love
we
it.
were supposed to get like 78 or 79, and I don't.
Yeah, I
quite
actually
got that high, but
I heard actually 81, and Stella went, "What?" Calm down.
Yeah, it was warm, but I had all the windows open in the house. It was actually kind of nice. We're supposed to be in the lower 70s, I think, the rest of the week.
Yeah,
the work week, and the weekend,
nice.
I think we could drop back down into like the 60s or 50s. But that's absolutely beautiful weather for me. I mean, that's my favorite weather. Upper 60s, low 70s. Absolutely perfect. Now,
Scott, I know you are.
I'm really built.
Although you're a native, Scott, I know that although you're a native Floridian, you're not the biggest fan of the hot weather.
Oh no.
And I remember you saying something that has always stuck with me, and he's like that a Floridian's native environment is air conditioning.
That's true. It's true. It's the only way you survive down here.
Exactly. It's the way it was in Phoenix when I lived in Arizona, man. It was like,
yeah. I've heard that from people that I know that, other than you, that have been to like Arizona or lived out there. They're like, yeah, you go from the air conditioning in the car to the air conditioning of the house, or the air conditioning of the store, or the air conditioning of the bar, or the air conditioning of your job, or whatever it is, that wherever it is you're going, it's air conditioning to air conditioning.
Well, it's the same thing, and it's honestly the same thing, just in reverse here in Michigan in the wintertime. I mean, we go to heated this, to heated that, to heated this, to heated that.
So Ghost Hand said that it's 100 Fahrenheit in Brazil.
Yeah, Chris it said the other night that Ghost Hand is in Brazil. I was like, wow, that's great. That's we are definitely. I mean, we've had fans and people chime in other countries and stuff, but we've got somebody, a good friend in Ireland that talks, comes and visits us and all that stuff. But it's nice to see somebody new all the way from Brazil.
Well,
dude, I did that once. I cracked an egg. I did that in Arizona when I was living in Arizona. We cracked an egg on the blacktop and
watched it sizzle.
I fucking cooked, man.
Well,
so, I mean, we didn't eat it, but
one of my good friends is from Australia, and he talks about down there. I mean, he's like, he laughs at us when we're bitching about 80 degrees. He's like, yeah. He's like, in the summer down there, it's, upper 90s to low 100s all the time.
Fuck, man, it's crazy sauce. So how was your week, Chris? How was your week?
My week was all right. I was on call, so I couldn't really do a whole lot. Didn't really have a lot going on. Went to go curling on Thursday, but the compressor died, so we actually couldn't curl.
The compressor? What do you mean the compressor?
It's the what pumps the coolant underneath the ice to keep the ice cold. So it was starting to slowly melt because it was actually still cold at that point.
Yeah.
The ice was the way we refer to it is greasy. So it was slightly wet. So if you go out there, it's very, very slick. So we, as a safety precaution, they decided not to have curling that night. So we ended our season, and then Sunday was Easter. I went over to my brother-in-law's, and we did an outdoor thing because it was an absolutely beautiful day. Did an outdoor thing, saw the nieces and nephews, and they did like the egg hunt and all that. And we just stayed outside, stayed masked, and stayed, mostly socially distanced. So.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah. Scott, actually, the curling club that Chris goes to is actually walking distance from my house. It's actually here in Ferndale, and I'm in his park, but it's in Ferndale, and it's right next to the park that we take drives into and stuff. So cool. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Scott, how was your week? Did you have a nice Easter and whatnot?
Packing,
that's right.
moving and packing. Yeah,
that's right. Congratulations, you are in your new home.
Well, not quite. I mean, we got the rest of this by this time next month, we will be completely in the new house. It's not very far, so we can go back and forth.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Scott, I think you had mentioned that you guys are getting a new house and moving in place, and that's really great. Your girlfriend Ashley had posted on Facebook about how she was painting you believe you called it a very salmon room. I think she's doing it like a Superman blue, and
it's done. She did it today. Yeah, and it is this beautiful. It's a little bit darker than a Superman blue, but when the lights are on and such, it kind of brightens up. But it's a nice, beautiful blue.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks fantastic.
I look forward to seeing it when I come down, hopefully next year. I had a decent week, although it was a little weird one. I mean, today I did announce, or yesterday I announced I got my second Fauci ouchie. Got my Pfizer. I am a Pfizer miser, as they say, and
any superpowers yet?
No, but
that's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, fucking A. But no, I was saying yesterday that resistance is futile. Will be assimilated. You know what?
I called you Ruscutus.
Ruscutus, yeah. That was. I love it. I'm Ruscutus. I will tell you, my arm is very sore, a lot more than the first time for the first shot. Yeah. And the first shot, I didn't get a single negative response, negative kind of thing. Today, I stayed home from the studio. It wiped me out. I came home and it kicked in about 4 or 5 hours after I got it. About 10 o'clock, I started feeling real drowsy and kind of, I had noticed slight temperature kind of adjustment. Like my body was not what you'd call a fever, but maybe like a couple of points up, fever and whatnot. So
my roommate, Matt, he got his second shot and he was suffering from a little bit of a fever and sluggishness and stuff.
Yeah. So I was real foggy. I slept real late today and I've been real kind of sluggish today. And I will say that I'm a little achy. But I'll say it's not like getting it's not like 101 degree temperature kind of achy. It's like, I don't know, just a little. Yeah, I'll probably go into the studio tomorrow. I was thinking maybe I'd take 2 days, but it'll probably be all right tomorrow. But
yeah, we'll see if we have a show in 2 weeks when I get my shot the day of the show.
Yeah. It is. It's not terrible. I mean, there are some people that are experiencing really, really crappy, like problems with it. But I'll just say, most people that I've talked to have been like maybe a day and a half. You feel like a little assy.
Yeah.
And that's
Sweet.
Yeah, it's always the day after.
Congrats.
It's like the day after people.
Right.
CD's getting his first shot tomorrow.
Oh, great. And it's not really, I'm just glad to finally be vaccinated fully. It's going to be a good 2 weeks though. They do say still 2 weeks before it finally, you're all fully vaccinated. And even so, still wear your masks because, ladies and gentlemen, you can still get it. I mean, these vaccines are somewhere between 80 to 95% effective. So you can still potentially get it, or at the very least, you can still pass it on to other people.
And it's even less if you have the Johnson & Johnson. It's like 70.
Right, that's what I mean. The Johnson & Johnson one is like 75 to 80%, and then the Pfizer and Moderna ones are like 92 to 95 or something like that. So,
but even if you do get it, even with the Johnson & Johnson, you are much less likely to be hospitalized or have severe complications from it.
Correct. Yes. And the after effects too, like the complications after you get well, you're less likely to lose your sense of taste and smell for 60 days or develop horrible, lung damage, things like that. So that happened. And then earlier this week, and it was funny because we talked about it a little bit last week. We found out, Scott and I both kind of dealing with some of the aftermath about it, the Bay Area Ren Fair did decide to open, but they're opening on the 17th. They're going to run through April to the end of May for 6 weeks. And they're opening at a new site in Dade City, which is about a half an hour further inland from the original site.
It's actually closer to Zephyr Hills than Dade City if you're looking on a map of Florida. But,
and so there's a lot of people really upset because the festival didn't really communicate with the cast, and there's still a lot of questions. We still don't know what's going on. I'm sure I'm not coming down. I mean, unfortunately, because I doubt
you got a job.
I mean, I doubt they're going to need me. I mean, if we're ever going to have fairies to paint, but there's a lot of drama online because of, and rightly so, there's a lot of people that are upset about being treated poorly. But once again, as Scott and I were talking before the show, this isn't anything that's out of the ordinary, I mean, so, I mean, it's a little bit more extreme than what we're normally used to, but we're used to them being kind of quiet and letting us know last minute and stuff like that. So,
by the way, Russ, Renee said Ruscutus is your drag name.
My drag name.
Yeah.
I like that.
Now that you're not growing that facial hair, you can do that.
So I mean, that's the thing, Scott. Like if
see you in fabulous makeup.
Thanks. That's the thing, Scott. Like if Kathy Parker called me up and said we're going to pay you so and so money to come down and do your Oliver character, I'd have to come down and do it. I mean,
it's. At the end of the day,
so you would give up doing the parade company gig to go down there to do that?
Well, I'm probably not going to be. We're not going to be into full production until at least mid-May for me. For the sculptors will be probably in mid-April, but they're probably not going to need me until like at the very least early May. So I could probably push it and say, guys, I'm going to be in Florida until the end of May, and they'd be like, all right, fine. And they just hold the work for me until I'm back. But
overtime,
right? But that's the thing.
That's how you build.
But that's the thing. From some of the things we're hearing that the money's going to be real scarce at this new show too. So I'm guessing it's not in the cards for me this year, but next year, hopefully, if we're back at Mosey and back in our old space. And
it has been said by management or by representatives of management that in various posts that it will be back in the Mosey site. So, but we'll see.
We'll see.
It doesn't mean it's going to have to be that way. But anyway,
try to be positive, but also kind of like understanding how people are upset.
I understand why everybody's upset about it. I understand the point of view that a lot of people have about feeling disrespected and such by the festival. It's difficult for me because I've always had a a pretty decent relationship with the management to show.
Yeah.
I don't feel that they're doing anything that different than they normally do. But I'm not going to take it away from anybody to, if the way the festival does things is not their cup of tea, well, don't do it. Definitely. Don't do it. If you don't feel the money, the compensation is equitable, don't do it.
Right.
You have that power.
Yeah. And then one of the things that we always talk about too is this: you can't compare Renaissance Fair work to other theatrical or acting or performance work. It's very different, and it is it's its own creature, it's its own beast. So anyway, we should move on. I don't want to dwell too much on that.
Ghost Hand just commented, and I was going to say something too. The ominous door opening behind Scott. It just this door just goes.
Yeah, that's
probably one of the cats.
It's my cat coming in.
And Renee said ghosts.
I was half expecting like Ashley or Jess to pop in and with their, hi.
Yeah, we should move on. We got a lot to cover today.
Chris,
so
what are you drinking, man?
I haven't even opened this yet. I have had one in the past, but I'm purposely saving it to open it because of what it is. And this is the Guinness Nitro Cold Brew Coffee.
Ooh.
This, it is a nitro beer. It is a...
there she is.
A beer with coffee and natural coffee flavors. It is 4% ABV. And the reason I'm saving it is because it is a nitro beer. So, and there's a proper way to pour a nitro beer, and it's so much fun to watch. You do that, it starts foaming up, you just pour it over and just
higher.
Up, yep.
Higher.
Tip it up like this and just pour it right in the glass upside down. And I spilled a little when I was doing this, and then once you're done, especially if you have a nice Guinness glass like I have here.
I'm going to pull back just a little bit because we can't really. All right, there we go.
And then you get to see the lovely cascade effect that Guinness does.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah. Actually, all nitro beers will do that. It's nitrogen. It's nitrogen coming up out of solution. So it's
right.
It's kind of cool. So I'm going to let that sit for a second. But yeah, this is something new that I found actually at Meijer. Surprisingly, I actually was surprised when I saw it there. But yeah, it's something I believe they made. Well, this says St. James Gate, but I thought they made it here. No, it's imported by Diageo. So this was actually made in Ireland. It looks like I thought this was something they made in their Boston or their Baltimore site, but I guess not. Must be 21 to purchase.
Well, one would hope.
So once the cascade ends, you get that super crisp line where the head is. The head's a little bit high. I didn't quite pour this quite right, but it has a very strong coffee aroma. It does smell basically like cold brew coffee. But when you sip it, especially when the head is still up there on the top, it's almost like coffee and cream. Is the flavor. It tastes like Guinness with mixed with coffee with a little bit of cream. It's actually really good. I'm gonna go ahead and take a sip here. It's very smooth. The coffee does come through, but a lot of the Guinness flavor is still there. So, to your point, Ghost Hand, the flavor is noticeable, but you still get a lot of that regular Guinness flavor as well. I actually really like it. I think it's a really good blend of the two flavors. I really like the way that they blend together. So, I'm going to give this like 4 1/4 bottle caps because I really do enjoy this. I think it's really good. And if you do like it, if you do like that kind of stuff, you should definitely check it out. But yeah, it's only 4%. But yeah, Guinness Nitro cold brew coffee.
Well, you said if it's coming from Ireland, I mean, don't you've said before that the alcohol content on some of them are like kind of lower on the average from what
Ireland tends to make their beers lower than America does because they want to be able to drink their beers all day without getting hammered. That's
Right.
actually a big thing. They want to be able to go out to the pub. The pubs are actually still a meeting place for a lot of people in Ireland. They're the
Sure.
neighborhood pubs. That's where the neighborhood goes. I'm going to the pub. That's a big thing there still. And so they want to be able to go to the pub, have a few pints, and not be sloshed when they go home. Because they have really strict like drinking and driving laws and things like that over there.
Right.
You do not want to get popped for drinking and driving.
Oh, I bet. It says CD, get a tolerance. Yikes. Well, it's true, I guess. We are.
You're right. They do booze up their coffees. The Irish coffee tends to have some whiskey in it. But yeah, as the Irish say, you can't drink all day, or unless you start in the morning, you can't drink all day.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
If you're gonna drink all day, you got to start in the morning.
Yeah, start in the morning. All right, Scotty, what are you drinking tonight?
Okay.
Yeah.
My glasses on. I have to read this.
It's a Nerds with Alcohol show.
It is the New England IPA by Workhorse Brewing Company out of Pennsylvania, probably handcrafted in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Is there a town called King of Prussia?
Yeah, there is.
Oh.
I actually know about that because I had one of the places I used to work. We had customers in King of Prussia.
Ah, okay. But here we go. You can see that pretty good right there. Workhorse.
Oh, okay, cool.
It is. And it does say creamy, juicy, fruity. It definitely tastes like a grapefruit. It's got that that IPA grapefruit bitterness to it.
Mm-hmm.
It has a nice, beautiful golden color.
A little bit cloudy, not as cloudy as I would expect for a New England, actually.
Right. It is definitely an IPA. It's not, it is not too hoppy. To me, I really enjoy drinking IPAs, so it's a very drinkable IPA. But it definitely has that sweetness and that bitterness to it. Yeah, it's a good one. It is a 6.7.
Whoa.
That
kick your butt a bit.
Yeah, I've got a few more in there. And
now, you guys talk about the IPA and the flavor, the distinctive flavor of the IPA.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you kind of talk to our tell our listeners a little bit about that? I mean, it is a very distinctive flavor and taste, right?
Yeah, it's that hoppiness. When people talk about the hoppy, flavor of a beer, right. It's definitely that hoppiness. That's that hoppiness, that bitter bite that it has. And interestingly enough, there's a distinct difference between American hops and European hops. European hops are a lot smoother, a lot more almost like a floral taste. So actual imported IPAs taste very different than American IPAs. I think that IPAs are kind of like the Yankees. You either hate them or you love them. There's no in between. There's no IPA is okay. You either really enjoy drinking IPAs or you can't stand them. Nobody else in my house likes IPAs very much at all. They refer to me it's like you're drinking a glass full of grass clippings combined with pine tar.
Oh, jeez.
And
that's a very visceral kind of description there.
Yeah, but there's a piney taste to it, especially in the aroma of it. But I really enjoy them. I enjoy all of those flavors and such.
And I do too. I'm actually a big hophead, and there are a lot of people who don't like them that they complain and say, well, anybody can make just throw a bunch of hops in a beer and make it. I'm like, no, you still have to have a balance.
Yeah.
There has to be you can't just throw a bunch of hops in. Dogfish Head does that, and I think their beers suck.
Yeah.
I mean, they throw hops in 1 minute. Their 90-minute ale is they are adding hops every minute for 90 minutes. They're 120. They do the same thing for 120 minutes. Mm-hmm. Those beers, when they first come out, are horrid because they are so over hopped. You can't have just a hop flavor. That has to balance with the other things in there, like the malts and things like that. And that's really what you're doing, is you're trying to take those hops and balance them with the malts. It all came about actually because of trying to preserve beer for the long trip from England to India, which is why it's the India Pale Ale, because they just threw hops in because they're a natural preserving agent.
Yeah, right. It's a miracle plant, really.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
A miracle plant, but it's really bad for dogs.
Yeah, it's an antiseptic as well. So it's good for you. Drink IPAs; they're good for you.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole thing with Guinness. Actually, way back in the day, it was a health tonic at one point. Drink Guinness; it's good for you. There's actually a bunch of old posters that say, Guinness, it's good for you, and it shows people like carrying beams and stuff. It's
because you don't feel the pain,
but
man.
So for hops, the other thing is that depending on the type of hops you use and when you put them into the kettle and things, is what kind of flavor you get out of them. Like one of my favorite hops is the Mosaic hop, which gives like it gives a tropical fruit, like a mango and some other tropical fruit flavors. And it's one of my favorite hops to use. I love the flavor of it. I'm not huge on like the grassy hops, the real earthy grassy ones, unless it's like in an English pale ale or something like that. And then they're perfect because of the balance that they do with them.
Interesting. All right. Well, cool. I mean, we had a question here. I mean, Ghost Hand had said, do you guys prefer your beer cold or warm? In Brazil, apparently they drink them exclusively ice cold.
And like I said in there, I prefer my beers. The lighter the color of the beer, the colder I want it.
Okay.
Is what it tends to be.
It depends on the beer, really, as to how cold. I don't like a beer that's too cold. I like it chilled. Just chilled slightly, but not too cold. I was in a restaurant once, and I had ordered a brown ale that they had. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but he brought me my beer and he set it down, and I had some. And it was a very nice restaurant. It's a fine dining restaurant. So the waiter comes back and he says, how do you enjoy? Are you enjoying your beer? And I said, it's good, but you're serving it a little bit too cold. And he looked at me odd, like the beer is too cold. And I'm like, yeah, more of the flavor is going to come out when it gets a little bit closer to room temperature, when it's not quite as cold. Because if you think about it, what's the first thing that cold does when it hits your body? It numbs you. Cold. So if the beer is too cold, it's just going to numb your tongue, and you're not going to enjoy the flavor. You're not going to enjoy the taste as much.
Yeah, I think I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah.
At one point.
So if you're going to drink an American brewed, mass-produced beer, drink it absolutely as cold as possible.
Well, that's why, there's a bar
Choke
here.
that fucker down, man.
Yeah, there's a bar here that advertises that they have the coldest, beer on tap, and they have like a temperature gauge that says it's 29 degrees. And I'm like, that's because you're serving Coors Light.
Right, cool. Exactly. I was going to say, is it Coors Light?
Exactly.
When I was a kid, and I was first starting to drink, Coors Light was one of those beers that I was like kind of introduced to, and I was like, oh, all right, I guess so. This okay, I guess, and then I did start as I got older and I got exposed to more drinks. I'm still and I've said this many times, I'm still not a big fan of beer, but I have, as I've gotten older, grown to at least appreciate it in some level. Particularly if I am going to drink beer, it is going to be better beer. It's not. I don't drink Bud, or I'd rather not drink
unless it's PBR
Bud Light or something like that. Unless it's PBR.
Yeah.
PBR is when Scott and I.
There's the right time and place.
There is a right time and place for PBR.
Cornhole night at the bar is the right time and place for PBR. I drink that when I play cornhole.
Scott and Jonesy and I are another mutual friends of ours. We went out to a strip bar one night and got PBR and had a great time. We had a great time that night. And now that's kind of our drink if we ever get the opportunity to go to a strip bar.
Here's the thing. It's usually the cheapest thing on the menu, right?
Yep.
Right.
But it's got good flavor.
Yeah. And if it's cheaper than all the other beers, it's going to give you more dollars to tip your You're entertainer.
Entertainer, exactly. And it's had a big resurgence in popularity over the last few years.
Pabst has actually come out, and we had a beer at the curling club once a few years ago that I thought was really good. It was an amber ale called Old Tankard, and I had never heard of it before. And I'm like, wait, does that really say that it's a Pabst beer? And I looked it up, and sure enough, it is. It's an old recipe that Pabst found that had been like just stored away. They hadn't made it in like 50, 60 years. Somebody found it and said, hey, let's make this. And it was really good. Wow. And they've been actually teaming up with and partnering with a lot of microbrews to help get them distributed. They're not taking them over. They're not buying them out. They're just letting them use their distribution channels to get their beers to market.
So, I just thought, asking about the temperature of the beer. I generally will enjoy, if I'm drinking a lager style, I will generally enjoy that to, a little bit colder.
Yep.
I think it's kind of made
what I was
to be.
saying. Like the lighter the color of the beer, the more I want it cold. A stout, I actually usually let my stouts sit, and I'll even like hold on to them in the glass and let them warm up a little bit because I want them closer to room temperature. Right. Because you do get a lot of the flavors, especially what it is the the flavors are going to come out more when the warmer it gets. The hops actually, if it's too warm, you can get a lot more bitterness, I think, out of the hops.
Yeah. Like CD mentioned about all the ice beers that came out about like 20 years ago or whatever it was. The Keystone Ice and well,
those were all supposedly cold filtered beers.
Right. I just never natural ice.
One of the other things, real quick about PBR, about Pabst actually, though, they put a lot of money into Stroh's. They're the reason Stroh's is back.
Oh wow!
They are the ones that actually funded Stroh's to rebuild the plant in Detroit, and that they didn't want it moving to Milwaukee, I think is where they're at. But they wanted it to stay in Detroit, and I believe they are part owners at least of the Stroh's Brewing Company.
So what I'm drinking, let's step away from the beer. I'm drinking a new Angry Orchard that I saw at Kroger the other day. Angry Orchard Strawberry. And
this one tastes like strawberries.
This one tastes like snozberries. It's not bad. It's I love strawberries. Strawberries is one of my favorite flavors, one of my favorite fruits. I love strawberries. This is it's definitely, it's you can kind of taste that combinant apple strawberry flavor. It's a more of a tart strawberry as opposed to sweet. I'm not hating it. I think it's I'd buy this again. 5% alcohol in a lovely can. I don't know. You guys might want to check it out. Like I said, it's a tart. It's very refreshing. But like I said, it's more of a tart strawberry as opposed to a cloyingly sweet strawberry. Because that's the thing about strawberry stuff; it can get really cloyingly sweet, and you feel like you're drinking syrup. Not so much with this stuff. This stuff is it's not bad. So and it's brand new. I guess it's new for this season, this summer, spring, whatever. I've been kind of sipping on it for the last half an hour, and it's nice. It's not overly powering in the strawberry kind of flavor. So you guys might want to check it out. So we got Angry Orchard Strawberry from me. We got Guinness Nitro from you, Chris.
Nitro Cold Brew Coffee.
Nitro Cold Brew Coffee. And Scott, again, what was yours?
Workhouse Brewing Company, New England IPA.
All right. Very cool. You guys might want to check those out. All right. So strawberries are not interesting. Most of mix of sweet. Yeah, that's true.
Most of our show tonight is going to be about the Falcon and Winter Soldier because we got 2 episodes to cover, which is going to be a lot.
Right.
But we got a couple other things that we have to talk about because was it yesterday? Was First Contact Day?
Yes, First Contact Day. Now we talked about on our other show on Tabard Nights. It is April 5th, 2062. I think it was, or 61. 63,
I think,
is the day that we make contact with the Vulcans, apparently. So, First Contact Day, Star Trek or Paramount or whoever makes them, they released 2 new teaser trailers for the upcoming Star Trek shows. Star Trek Discovery Season 4.
Which looks cool. I like the new uniforms.
Yes.
I'm just going to get that out there right now. I like the new uniforms. They look kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Very much like, harkens a bit to the next gen, but also still, a lot of touchstones on the colors of.
Yeah, it's the colors from the original,
right?
But the it kind of touches on some of the other stuff. But the long jackets, they're almost like the peacoat sized jackets, overcoats. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be a huge, like a big threat to the galaxy. Something about some sort of
gravitational anomaly.
Yeah, that's like 5 light years across. So it's huge. It's massive, and they're going to be combating it. And apparently, it's going to take the planets of the Federation plus the planets, the non-Federation planets. A lot of teaming up. It looks like, and. I'm excited. I think this is going to go back into like a more of that classic Star Trek that we used to get, as opposed to like there's been so much world building for the first 3 seasons. So particularly last season when they went into 1,000 years into the future.
Well, we also hear them refer to Michael as Captain Michael.
Right. She was made captain at the end of the 3rd season. There's at one point there also had a point where she's shaking hands with an alien with alien hands. It looks very much like Saru's hands. So I think we'll probably see him again.
Well, they show Saru at one point, or it looks like Saru, with his hands on a table or something, because he's doing his own thing. Yeah.
Well, it's either him or it's maybe the guy they saved at the end of the previous season, the one who was responsible for the burn. Scott, have you been caught up on Discovery? Have you been watching?
No, I haven't. I'm not near the Trekkie that you guys are, but
right, yeah.
I've enjoyed everything that I've seen before, but I haven't caught up.
It last season was really cool because, like I said, they had gone 1,000 years. They basically at the end of season 2, they had been forced to go 1,000 years into the future, and so now they're even so much further into the future, and seeing this ship that is 1,000 years old, and it got retrofitted, and they were had become like the most important ship in what was left of the Federation's fleet.
CD just called it the Torture the Tardigrade show.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Yeah. So it was, but yeah, it was a really cool season, I think, and it was a really cool follow up to season 3, which had.
There's been some really good. There's been some really good character development on that show.
Right, very much so.
I still don't like Michael.
You don't like her, huh?
Nope, I'm still not a fan.
Okay. Well, we'll see what they do with her this season. Let's hopefully, they do some cool stuff. The spin-off Strange New Worlds is also starting production this month. And so the new season of Discovery should be coming up later on this year, and we'll probably see the first season of Strange New Worlds sometime later this year. Star Trek, but they also did a premiere a teaser trailer for Star Trek Picard season 2.
That's the one I'm really looking forward to.
Right. Now they're saying it won't be here until probably early 2022. So we've got a ways to wait on that one. But there was a huge teaser for the return of Q. And
yes.
So my God.
It's all talking, and it's like showing like the vineyard and going up to Picard's house, and then you're going through your camera's going through his office, which is actually recreated on the ship via the holodeck. Right. But it's going through the office, and it's going through, and it shows a book, which is what the hell was it? I'm blanking on the book now. It's
probably like like Hamlet or something.
No, it's the epic poem about the fall of man.
Paradise Lost.
Homer.
Paradise Lost. That's it.
Paradise Lost.
Yes, they show Paradise Lost, and I'm like, wow, that's really fitting for the whole Q story, though.
Yeah,
because that's the whole thing, is he's testing man.
Right.
He's testing mankind. So, and then they go to like a chessboard, and there's a deck of cards there, and the Queen of Hearts is up, and it's all Picard talking through this whole thing, and then all of a sudden the card just starts to disintegrate, and it goes down to one corner, and it's just the Q for the Queen.
And then you hear,
and then it comes up, and then you hear John Delancey say, "The test is never over."
Right. So, wow, really fucking cool. I'm really excited. One note I like, I like the fact that the medical, the medical uniforms are white now. Like they're separate from science. There's the red for command, there's the gold, there's for like engineering or whatever, there's the blue for science, and then there's white now for medical. And I kind of like that because Hugh wears the medical whites and stuff. So that looked like that was Saru. I've got it up on my thing here, but we're just going to see some more Vulcans again. I think I'm super excited. I think it's really cool for the new season of Discovery. And Picard was so fucking good. The first season was so good, and I'm really excited for Picard season 2. I'm bummed. I'm bummed that we have to wait until 22. Apparently, things got delayed because of COVID, obviously. So we won't be seeing that.
Yeah, Ghost Hand said he hopes that it's better than the first season. It went so far off with Picard character in his place on the Federation that it feels like a different character. And I have to agree, I wasn't crazy about their treatment of the Picard character in the first season.
I'll agree with that. He was a very different character, but you're also thinking about a character that's, this 20, 25 years after he's left being a captain. Characters evolve, they change. And particularly when you're getting to be that old, you come to think about the things in your life and the decisions you've made.
They really haven't, they only kind of touched on the whole reason he left the Federation, and that's the whole thing, is he left Starfleet because of reasons, and they've only kind of touched on those. They kind of got into them at one point, but you didn't know about that until at least halfway through the season. They didn't really touch on it at all.
That's true.
What really caused his rift with Starfleet and why he actually has a problem with Starfleet.
Right. Scott, do you know, did you follow Picard at all too, either?
No, I'm sorry. I have to say I haven't.
Basically, he left the Federation because he disagreed with the way they handled trying to help the Romulans when their planet was destroyed. So their planet was essentially destroyed, and he was trying to help the refugees, and they were trying to do a mass evacuation of the planet, and he was trying to get the Federation to help them. It wasn't like immediate. They knew the planet was going to be destroyed. Their sun was going supernova or something. So they had time to put together a fleet, and then the Federation basically said, why should we help these guys that have been our enemies for decades, for like the last 200 years. And
they had something else going on that they said that took precedence.
Right. Exactly. And it turned out to be like a massive conspiracy, and it's just some really cool stuff. They did some really interesting stuff with Data. I mean, honestly, there was some tear-jerking stuff for me. I am curious, though, if they're going to bring back John Delancey as Q, how are they going to handle the fact that everybody's older? That Q, an omnipotent being, not supposed to age, how is he? What are they going to do? Are they going to do
he's going to do
youthening technology?
No, I think he's gonna appear older because Picard's older, and that it's his whole being human thing. When he shows up, he appears as a human. So if he was a human, he would have aged. So I think that's how they're going to explain it.
That's probably true. I mean, then again, he can look any way he wants. Right. They could even get somebody else to do the work.
The way Renee put it was Picard hit his fuck this shit point.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, I'm really excited. I'm loving the new Star Trek stuff. I've always been a Trekker, Trekkie, whatever you want to call us, and I'm a big fan.
I like it, but I'm much more Star Wars than Star Trek.
Yeah, you've always been more Star Wars. Yeah. And I'd have to say, as much as I love Star Wars, I've always been a little more Trek. So it's because that's how we balance the show.
Right. Well, and like I've said, it's a matter of whether or not you tend to like science fiction or science fantasy.
Yeah.
And I've always been much more of a fantasy guy than the actual like hard science fiction, because a lot of Star Trek is actually based on science.
Oh yeah, it's hard science. It's hard science fiction. And whereas I love fantasy and I love
Star Wars.
sci-fi,
Star Wars is space magic.
Yeah, it's science fantasy.
Yeah.
It's really
it's total. It's total.
That's why.
Space opera.
Yeah, George Lucas fucked it all up with trying to make it into science fiction by bringing in midichlorians and all that. No, George, it's magic. It's space magic. That's all
let it be
is.
magic,
Just
George.
let it be magic.
Yeah. So that's cool. So for Star Trek fans, we got that coming up. Another couple of quick hits before we get into discussion about the MCU. The Last of Us TV show is set to start production real soon for HBO. For those of you guys who have played the game Last of Us in PlayStation, I believe it was a PlayStation exclusive for the longest time. And it's a fantastic game. The sequel as well, really great. One of the best games I've ever played. And so there is a show coming up, and it's a variation on the zombie apocalypse theme, and should be really cool. Have you played it, Scott? Have you played it?
No, I haven't played it. I'm just I watched a few seasons of Walking Dead, and I had my fill. I really just couldn't watch another season of how horrible people can be to each other.
And that was my thing. I'm like, I watched the first 3 seasons of Walking Dead, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. It's the same thing over and over. It's just I will give the show lots and lots of kudos. There was fantastic performances. There was scripts were great. Cinematography was beautiful. The makeup effects were incredible. All this stuff, very top of the notch. But I have to imagine that there are more interesting stories to tell in a zombie apocalypse than essentially the same story every season. How far each other over? Well, yeah. How far can we push ourselves before we lose our humanity?
Right.
And then pull ourselves from the brink of that loss. That was the same story every season.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
And it was like, I've seen this story. I've seen this story last season. I saw it the season before. So, I'm like, why didn't they stretch themselves? Why didn't, maybe it's because, I know it was a comic book. So maybe it was because the comic book never explored that part. But I had to imagine that there's got to be, I wanted to know more about maybe some of the science of it.
Mm-hmm.
Where did this come from? Maybe you could explore, where this virus had come from.
Right. I agree. I always wondered that myself.
But they never went that direction.
Right. The comic book never went that direction. That's the thing.
And that's probably why. But there's this tendency. There's been this tendency for quite a while now in television to show these more human characters. And I was like, well, no, what you're showing us is you're giving us stories of people just being terrible to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And just being terrible human beings, and then you're making stars out of these terrible characters.
Now, yes, and there's the Walking Dead is coming to an end. They've just announced their final season 11. In fact, apparently it came as a surprise to some of the showrunners that the network AMC has decided to end the show at season 11. But I think they could probably wrap things up pretty well. They have said there are 2 spin-off shows coming up, one of which takes place like a good 20 years further down the future, or in the future, where society has more or less kind of rebuilt itself and also kind of figured out how to survive in a world where there are still dead people walking around.
That's an interesting, and that is a somewhat different, perspective on things. Right. I just thought that there were probably a lot of other stories that they could have told than the same one every season.
I agree.
And the bigger picture that I'm talking about, you saw that in Game of Thrones. Every season it was just, look how horrible these people are to each other. I mean, you couldn't find a decent person with a divining rod in that story. And there were a few of them here and there. Jon Snow and 5 of his friends.
Yeah.
They were the only decent people in the entire story.
Brandon Stark was all right.
Yeah.
Podrick.
He
was the best of them all. He's the nicest guy.
And one of the most
Tarly.
decent. They just
Sam Tarly.
But everybody else was just so horrible. Even the people you were supposed to be, cheering for, they had their horrible moments.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm glad it. I enjoyed it up to the end, but I thought they were really pushing that brink.
I enjoyed it as well. Which, by the way, just so you know, today marks the 10th anniversary of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Wow.
It premiered 10 years ago today.
Blows my mind that show is 10 years old,
Well, it ran for 8 seasons. So
right.
Yeah.
But still, it just doesn't seem like that. But I
yeah,
like some of these comments that are being made. CD is making some good total misery porn or prepper porn.
Ghost Hand called it misery porn.
Yeah. I watched for Rambo Karen taking down Cannibal Camp, and that was the end of the good stuff. Okay, sure, yeah. I mean, and you're right, Scott. I would like to see them, like, maybe a season where they're just trying, instead of fucking each other over, maybe just trying to find resources to survive, maybe an entire season where they're like, we got to feed ourselves without eating each other,
Yeah. How about getting to the end of the season where they didn't just survive? What about a victory?
Right. Yes, a victory would have been good. We should move on. The last little bit here is that they also was also revealed yesterday a new trailer for the Loki show that's going to be on Disney Plus.
That was Owen Wilson, wasn't it?
Owen Wilson. He's a regular. I got to say, I'm super excited. This trailer showed a little bit more about what the show is actually going to be about, and I was right in my.
Watched this yet.
Okay, I was right in my assessment when I saw the initial trailers. I'm like, oh, well, Loki is now an anomaly in time because when he grabbed the Tesseract in Endgame and disappeared with it, he basically created a splinter timeline.
Yeah. And
so now, if he's still alive, then he's this anomaly.
Yeah. He only died in one timeline.
Right.
Obviously, whoever grabbed that Tesseract, that Loki is still
out there
around.
Right.
Yeah.
So it looks like what he's going to be doing is he's going to be working for the Time Variance Authority, which is something in the Marvel universe that they're a body of a bureaucratic kind of, I don't know, not really a government company, but some sort of otherworldly kind of organization that polices time.
Yeah. There was a movie. It was a movie several years ago with and it was something Bureau. I'm trying to remember the title of it. With Matt Damon was in it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember and that was a really good film. I want to say that it was based on a Philip K. Dick story because a lot of movies, a lot of sci-fi movies are based on Philip Dick stories. But that was really good.
It looks really cool, though. I mean, the fact that they have actually given us some more details about it. How he says to me, the
Loki show.
Yeah,
is that what you're talking?
Yeah, the Loki show.
I noticed how much imagery was being pulled right out of the comic book. Him in the suit with the horns.
Yes, yeah.
Like I've seen that cover. I saw that comic book cover.
Absolutely. And I was this. It looks really great. It's coming in June, I think it is, June 11th. So pretty much right around the corner. By the time Winter Soldier is over, we'll have about a month or so, and before this one starts. So I'm really, really excited about it. But
it looks good
because of that trailer, and then my parents coming over on Sunday and we watched Thor Ragnarok again. It made me think about the fact that I think Tom Hiddleston is probably the most perfect and appropriate casting that and the MCU did. I mean, God's bless Robert Downey Jr. and his portrayal of Tony Stark, and Chris Evans as Captain America, and Chris Hemsworth as Thor. I think Hiddleston captures Loki, the Loki I know from the comic books, probably better than any other actor did. I mean, like Stella was like, you think he's better than Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark? I'm like, Robert Downey Jr. molded Tony Stark into Robert Downey Jr. They became a gestalt kind of character. Because before
I can't imagine anyone else playing him though. No.
Well, I think there. No. I mean, no, but I think there are other actors probably in Hollywood that could have played it. I'd be hard pressed to come up with one right now, but I think you know, but I think Tom Hiddleston was probably just the picture perfect Loki, and I can't think of anybody else.
As a comic book reader myself,
right.
I often mention to people when they're talking about how wonderful Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of Iron Man was, and I'm like, well, yeah, it was great. It was incredibly entertaining. You know, so
Absolutely.
relatable. But Tony Stark in the comic book was never like that.
Correct.
Until Robert Downey Jr. played him that way.
Right. And then they adapted the character in the comics to more closely match RDJ's.
So Robert Downey Jr. wasn't playing Tony Stark. He was just playing either himself or some version of himself, and that became Tony Stark. I mean, I agree with you. I think one of the best things that the MCU has done has been their casting.
Yeah,
you know, they've gotten the right actors.
Fantastic.
It is, you know, they've captured such an interesting aspects of these characters and such. But my personal favorite of everybody, and at least in as much as their casting goes, is Cumberbatch playing Doctor Strange.
That's another one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, that is so perfect.
I have to agree with you on that one. I think he was an absolute perfect. I agree with both of you. I think both of them are the absolute perfect people to play those. Now, could other people play some of the other characters? Yeah, but I think the castings of Cap and Thor and all those were absolutely fantastic. Yes.
Oh, they're fantastic castings. Absolutely. I'm not getting away from that. I'm just saying, I think out of all of them, I'd have to say, for me, Hiddleston with a tight second for Cumberbatch.
And even I think what's her name playing Black Widow has been fantastic. I mean, I think
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson. I think she's been a great Black Widow.
She's done great, and I'm really excited to see the Black Widow movie and see her really shine. But at the same time, I think there are a lot of actresses that probably could have done a similar job or a just as good a job. You know, I mean, we'll see what this new movie does. You know, and how that affects it and stuff.
Red Skull, I think, was another great casting.
Oh my gosh, Hugo Weaving.
Yeah, Hugo Weaving as Red Skull. I think he was another one that was just a perfect cast for playing the Red Skull.
Mm-hmm. He is such an amazing actor to begin with.
He is.
Yeah, he really is.
Absolutely amazing. But so we should start a petition that they make a Doctor Strange movie with Loki as the villain.
That would be the shit, man. That would really be amazing. I think we're going to see some really great stuff out of this TV show. And I mean, like, you know, going back a little bit further outside of the MCU, but still a Marvel movie. I mean, who's going to argue that Patrick Stewart was the perfect Professor X?
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
he was the one we always
wanted. Did a great job.
What was that?
What was that, Scott?
James McAvoy is the younger professor.
Yeah, James McAvoy. He did a great job too. You know, he did a really good job. I mean,
I'm still not a fan of those. But when my friends and I, before they made the X-Men movies, we were doing our dream castings for X-Men.
Yeah.
Because we're like, and the only one that actually made it into the cast was Patrick Stewart as Professor X. He was always our choice. Wizard Magazine
used to have every couple of months would have like they would cast do their picks for casting certain movies or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I mean, Patrick Stewart was almost always the top of the list for Professor X whenever they brought something like that up. Now, I mean, Wolverine, they'd usually pick all different kinds of guys to play Wolverine, and I think that's one of the reasons why Hugh Jackman was so good at it, because he came out of nowhere and was able to make the role his own.
Yeah. Right. Well, and that's the thing. You can't find an actor that actually fits Wolverine's description.
Correct.
You can't.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, he's supposed to be short, first of all, and
how many actors actually? Well, it's difficult to find an actor that's short.
And one that's willing to play short. Like Robert Downey Jr. isn't tall. And if you notice, in every scene that he's with Pepper Potts, she's barefoot.
Yeah.
Or he's on a box.
He's on a box. Right. Yeah, they do film him to be taller.
Yeah.
And they do that a lot with a lot of the actors. It is kind of funny that they do that. Same thing with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is always filmed on a box or whatever.
He's 5'9", I think.
5'7". I think he's
really
shorter than you would think. A lot of actors are actually on that average to less, kind of shorter than average height.
Yeah. Remember Michael Keaton? Michael Keaton is not very tall either.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Tom Cruise is 5'7".
5'7". Mm-hmm. And that's kind of on the short side, man. You know, I mean,
Robert Downey Jr. is 5'9".
So 5'9" isn't short, but it's certainly not tall either. So, I don't know. I think it's just interesting that there's so many of these actors.
Michael Keaton's also 5'9".
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we should probably move on. We had 2 episodes to cover for Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Episode 2 is where we actually start seeing the buddy cop movie start. That's really where we see that happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the show got a lot better. The first episode, I was like, it's okay. But the second episode, I think it really picked up, and I think it was overall just a much better episode.
Mm-hmm. I watched the first episode and thought it wasn't that great. Of course, I felt like it really paled in comparison to WandaVision, which I had just watched.
Yeah. And
WandaVision was so interesting and creative and really, really different. So it was like, wow, I would hate to follow that. I hate for my show to follow that.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't supposed to originally.
I know
this was supposed to be first.
Yeah. But I really thought that first episode, it had its moments, but I thought that it was kind of dull. It was kind of lackluster.
Yeah.
But it really picked up, I thought, in the second one.
Well, so the first episode ended with them introducing the new Captain America. And the second episode actually picks up with him in a locker room. He's back at his old high school, about to go on Good Morning America and do like the whole song and dance thing. And his wife is in there with him and talking to him, and he's stressing out. He actually peels the tape off of his old locker and sees his initials on there and his football number. And she winds up leaving the room, and what's his name? Haskins comes in. And he's like, Hoskins, yeah. Has he puked yet? She's like, no, you're up. And he's like, and he goes in and starts. What's that?
Yeah, I'm just saying that they did a fantastic job of making this character that between the 2 episodes, everybody decided, oh, I hate this guy.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely hate this guy. And it's like, okay, he's a real guy.
Well,
he's a real person.
Yeah.
And he's relatable.
Yep.
He's gonna be that guy that you hate, but now you're questioning, okay, he's got a point, and he has dimension, he has depth.
Yes. Right. Well, and that's the thing. So he's going through and he's talking with him, and you can tell they were high school friends.
Yes.
And they're talking, and he's like, I just want to get out there and do the job, and Hoskins tells him, he's like, this is the job. This has always been part of it.
Yep.
The Star-Spangled Man with a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do find it interesting. Go ahead, Scott.
I'm just saying that I believed him when he said, I just want to get out there and do the job. I mean, like, I believe you. That actor sold me. That's what his character really wants to do. Yeah. I know he's going to fail.
Yeah.
Well, it's also a matter of
place that he's put.
What he thinks the job entails.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's where the failure is going to come in, is that he's doing it for the wrong reason. Yeah.
It's there was so much conveyed there, and I really believed both of those actors, and I believed their relationship. So my hat's definitely off to how well that scene was done, and then so many of the other scenes, and so much of the other very, very unknown Marvel Comics lore about the Super Soldier program and such. I'm glad that they're bringing all that stuff in, and I'm even more glad that they're doing such a great job of presenting all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I was telling Stella that it's even more evident in this show how much they amped up the idea and the power behind the super soldier serum, because in the comics, you know, Captain America originally was not supposed to be, I mean, he's supposed to be the peak of human level, you know, before you get
human. Yeah.
He's an apex human before you get superhuman. So he's not supposed to be like this guy that can lift a car. He's a guy that's supposed to be able to be goddamn impressive in the gym, but not a guy that necessarily can, you know, jump 30 feet and all these other things, or run as fast as a car, you know. And but we're seeing in this show, and it was seen somewhat in the movies too, but also in the show, that the super soldiers are super.
Yeah,
they're not just like the peak of human perfection. They are badass, and that's what's one of the things that's making them so dangerous. And so I really, I was like, okay, that's really evident in these characters.
Yeah.
I really liked it. It was interesting too to see, like, it's interesting that you got these. Captain America has got another. I got another black sidekick here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they stuck to the lore in the comics too. Lamar Hoskins in the comic books, when John Walker became Captain America for a while, Lamar Hoskins was his buddy and his best friend who had also gotten kind of superpowers, and he was Bucky first, and they put him in a Bucky costume, and then at one point it's shown to him that there was brought up to him that Buck or Bucky was considered a kind of a negative name for a black man. So not nearly as bad as some of the other ones, but still, you know, not a good one. So that's when he created the persona of Battlestar. And then we see that.
Yeah, Hoskins calls himself that later on in the episode.
Right, exactly. And that was when Winter Soldier is like, Battlestar, stop the car. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, so that whole thing, they do the whole Good Morning America thing, and he does the whole song and dance, and kind of comes off very cheesy.
Yeah. But I loved how they also showed like his qualifications too. I mean, this guy's a badass.
Yeah. But then that ends with Bucky sitting on the floor watching that show and reacting to it. And then the next thing is you see Sam, and he's getting ready for a mission with his one buddy.
Joaquin.
Yeah, Joaquin. And he's looking at a poster of Captain America, and they start talking about it, but they start walking down the stairs, and Bucky's walking up. He's like, "You shouldn't have given up the shield, Sam," and just confronts him about giving it up. And basically, you didn't have the right to do that. This isn't what Steve wanted. And Sam just gets on him about, you can't tell me what to do. You can't come in here with your extended life and tell me about my rights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really loving the banter between the two of them. The fact that they're obviously frenemies. They're obviously people, they care about each other to some extent, but there's so much,
and that's the thing,
competitive nature between the two of them.
And that's where it started. This is the start of that buddy cop type of thing, because he basically tells him that, you know, I'm going after something. He goes, he's talking about the Flag Smashers. He's like, I'm pretty sure they're one of the big three. And Bucky's like, what's the big three? He's like, you know, the big three: aliens, androids, and wizards.
Oh man!
Whenever we fight somebody, it's always one of those big three. And he's like, no, it's not. He's like,
that was so funny.
Yeah, he's like, they're always the bad guys. And he's like, what about Doctor Strange? He's a sorcerer. Well, a sorcerer is just a wizard without a hat.
Yeah.
So, both of you will appreciate the fact that when that happened in my house, I looked at everybody and said, all right, there is a difference between sorcerers and wizards, but it has nothing to do with their hat.
I said the same thing. I looked at Stella and I went, there's totally a difference. And I went, you know what? Never mind.
It has nothing to do with their hat.
But I love that.
Oh man, I loved that. He's like, you know what a wizard? You know what a wizard? Yeah, I know what Gandalf is. You know, I read it. I read the Hobbit.
How do you know who Gandalf is?
Yeah, I read it with the Hobbit when it first came out. You know, and
the thing is that he mentions that he read it in 1937. In 1937, it actually only came out in England.
Yeah.
So for Bucky to have read it, he would have had to been like a super fan that actually had the book imported from England to read it.
And so that's Bucky you being a super nerd.
So yeah, Bucky is a huge nerd.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I really love that banter, that interplay back and forth, and
then they get on the plane and it continues. Yeah, it's like, because Sam's not even talking to him. Bucky's like, what's your plan? And Sam doesn't say anything. Oh, so there's no plan.
Yeah. So one of the things that did bother me, I mean, it's one thing for Sam to jump out of a plane, but then Bucky jumps out and doesn't use a chute or anything, you know, well, we're too low for chutes. And so he just jumps out thinking that his vibranium arm
pulls the leather off of his,
just pulls that off
with his regular hand, because he's
right.
Super Soldier, he just tears the leather.
I get that the guy's tough.
Why did you just ruin a perfectly good leather jacket just to show off your arm?
Just show off the arm. I get that the guy is
works
tough.
Just as well under the sleeve.
Yeah.
Right.
It works just as well.
But then he jumps out of the plane and, you know, and then just like uses his arm to break his fall, more or less, sort of, and completely fucks up his superhero landing. But, you know, lands on his back. And it's one of the things that
one of the best parts of the show is right there, though.
Yeah,
is when Red Wing flies in and you hear Sam go, "You know, I got that all on camera, right?"
I mean, it's just like it is one of the things that bothers me, though, too. Is like, I mean, I know technically the Winter Soldier is a quote unquote super soldier just because of his ability and his arm and things like that, but he doesn't have the super soldier serum.
Well, he had gotten the Russian version.
You think he got the Russian version?
Yeah, he had gotten. I thought that was the whole thing, was he had gotten the Russian version of the.
I don't think they ever addressed that, you know, because he can like when the truck starts to take off, and he just starts running after it, and he's catching up, you know. I mean, as far as I know, he's just a guy with a bionic arm, you know.
No,
I mean,
he actually had been given the super soldier serum, at least the Russian version of it.
It had to have been the Russian version or some sort of Russian version, because the only person that got the American version was Steve. And, you know, I mean, and in the movies, they've also established that any other attempt to recreate it was met with failure for the most part. So, we also forgot.
So the serum used in the Winter Soldier program that was procured from Howard Stark by Winter Soldier caused an excruciating transformation without the need of Vita rays, much like the serum used on Blonsky which afterward affected the subject physically, more powerful than even the original Winter Soldier as one subject. Blah blah blah. So that's the MCU. So that's what he got from he got it from Stark. He got the super soldier serum from Stark when he killed him.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, one thing we did kind of jump over, though, was Sam introducing Bucky to, and this is a huge thing, Bucky introducing Sam to Isaiah Bradley.
Oh, that hadn't happened yet. That was later.
Oh, was it later?
Yeah,
later in that episode.
I'm going through the episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, that was actually quite a bit later in the episode. Okay. But yeah, they wind up in Germany because Red Wing has tracked the Flag Smashers there, and we see them picking up like giant things of like gas containers and stuff like that. Just two of them lifting them up like nothing, and putting them in trucks. And then we get this big chase scene because they think there's a hostage on board. They run after it. Bucky This is where you were talking about. Bucky runs after the trucks, passes one of them, leaps up on the back of the other one, opens it up, goes inside, and this is the first time that he's met what's her name? Carly.
Yeah, Carly, the leader essentially.
Yes. And he's like, "Hey, you know, I found the hostage. You know, blah blah blah. Are you okay?" And she just smiles at him and kicks him out the back, right into the windshield of the truck behind him.
Yeah. I thought it was very interesting that that actress was playing a very similar character in this show to the character she played in Star Wars Solo.
Yeah. What was she in Solo?
The leader of that rebel group that they thought were the Marauders.
Oh yeah, okay.
She shows up. It's her. It's the same. I was like,
yep.
You know, it's almost the same character.
Okay, yeah, I completely forgot. I knew she looked familiar. I couldn't think of where I'd seen her.
But yeah, so then we get the big fight of the backs of trucks where they're kicking Winter Soldier around back and forth between the two trucks, and Red Wing flies in, and Carly just runs over, grabs Red Wing, and breaks it over her knee.
And we're like, I was like, oh no, not Red
And Bucky goes,
yeah, I thought, oh man.
And Bucky's response is, I've always wanted to do that. But they get in this big fight, and then Cap and Battlestar show up, and that's where we get the whole thing where Bucky gets kicked off the truck and he's holding on, and Sam flies down and says, that girl kicked your ass.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get the whole thing. And then do you have something, Scott?
No, I was just saying it was after that they end up, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? I've seen this before. And then they go to...
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy.
They're walking down the street, and then Cap and Battlestar pull up in a truck, and they're like, come on, get in. And they just look at him and just keep walking. Just...
Now, me personally, I understand the little bit of, and you can tell that Walker understands it too, right? It's like he gets the animosity, but honestly, as agents and as freelance agents, as agents of the government, you'd think that they would put that shit aside to work together for the greater good. And it's unfortunate for me. I was like, man, that sucks that they're just like ready to laugh these guys off just because they're kind of new, or the guys new in the uniform. Sam gave the shield up. The government did what they did. I'd be like,
Bucky sees it as a betrayal of his friend, though. That's the thing.
He does. And I get Bucky.
Bucky is never going to accept Walker as Captain America.
No. And I get that, but I get Sam. Sam's a little more level-headed, and I would think that he'd be like, well, this is, and there has been a couple of times in the second and third episodes where he does kind of is the voice of reason.
Well, Sam's hurt because he was given the shield and then gave it up to put it into basically on display.
Right.
And then within a week they're trucking out a new Captain America. And they've pulled that shield out and given it to somebody else. That's the thing, is that he was never even called to be and asked to be Cap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It all happened way too soon for them to not have planned for that to happen in the first place.
To know that when Sam gave it up, that they were already going to use it with somebody else.
I said to myself, I'm like, how could you be so naive as to think they're going to take this $1 billion disc that has been around, because it's a really expensive piece of vibranium, at least, well, maybe not $1 billion, but like, a couple $1 million worth of vibranium. And they're not going to create, a new Captain America. That's just super naive in my opinion. So they finally agree to get into the truck with them. That's when Hoskins introduces himself as Battlestar. Yeah. And they're talking. And then by the end, Cap's trying to recruit them to his team, basically. Mm-hmm. And he says, I'm just trying to be the best Cap I can be, and it would be a whole lot easier if I had Steve's wingman on my side. Right. And that was enough for him to get out of the truck.
Yeah. And Sam's like, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
And they both leave. Sam and Bucky leave, and they go off and do their thing. That's when Bucky takes Sam to Baltimore to meet Isaiah.
Okay. Sorry, I jumped the gun on that one, but I was really excited about it because holy crap, that is how they're introducing an entire like hidden section of the Marvel universe that kind of came about a number of years ago. For those of you guys who don't know this, the whole idea about the black Captain America was something that was created back in, I think it was 03 or 04 with a miniseries called Red, White, and Black, and where they established that the super soldier serum had been they used black soldiers to experiment on with the super soldier serum before it was used on guys like Steve Rogers. And through those experiments, they had a number of successes to some extent. They were, but many black soldiers died in the experimentation that came from that, a la the Tuskegee Airmen, And it was a story that was like, holy shit, because a lot of us comic fans were like, wow, that honestly makes sense that the government would do that. We were like, of course they're going to do that. They're going to use at that time in the 40s, black men were definitely seen as second-class citizens. So they're going to use those guys instead of white soldiers to experiment, to fine-tune this procedure. When Erskine came along, he was able to fine-tune it and fix it and get it to work. And then, they got Captain America out of it. But before they got Cap, they did get some guys that survived the process. And they ended up putting them to work as latrine diggers and stuff like that, until eventually one of them, Isaiah Bradley, had heard, I think, that Captain America had been captured. And so he grabbed an American flag and tied a bandana around his face and grabbed one of Cap's old shields and went and rescued him. And because he broke protocol and he broke whatever, he got brought up on charges and spent 30 years in Leavenworth. And I mean, it's this horribly sad story, but it was like, wow, that's brilliant. And they retrofit that story into the comic books and into comics continuity. Because of that, though, we also got several characters that came out of it. One was Patriot, who became one of the founding members of the Young Avengers. And it's one of the things I've been saying, that over the last several years, that they're just working towards more and more and more working towards establishing the Young Avengers as a presence in the MCU. Mm-hmm. And so I'm guessing we're gonna get
them in, I think by the end of phase 4, is it that we're phase 5 that we're at?
Yeah.
We're going to have the
phase
Young
4.
Avengers movie, if not a TV show. It'll be one of the two.
Yeah.
But
because Isaiah Bradley, the Black Captain America, the first one, he was able to pass on his super soldier genes to his children and grandchildren. And so that's what we see. And fortunately in the comic books too, you do see in the comics, Isaiah Bradley is this extremely tough, robust 90-year-old man or 95, 100-year-old man, because the soldier serum just kept him spry and young, but his brain degraded and he became fell to Alzheimer's because it was an imperfect serum that he got. And so anyway, establishing that character I was really excited for it.
And Bucky says that he's taking him to meet somebody that he tangled with in Korea. Yeah.
So they established in the comics that even after Isaiah got out of prison, he still became kind of this underground hidden superhero that helped in the neighborhoods and did what he had to do and did what he could do to help out. And that some of the other Black superheroes knew of him, but he was always keep it quiet, man.
Yeah. And in this, Isaiah says that he spent 30 years in prison for being a hero. Mm-hmm. And that they continued experimenting on him while he was in prison, taking his blood and experimenting on him.
And this is obviously, and we see later on, where this new serum had probably come from to some extent.
So they wind up leaving there. Basically, Isaiah tells them to fuck off and get the hell out. Yeah. And so they leave, and they're arguing on the street. And Sam is like, "Oh, actually, another great thing is, as they're walking up to Isaiah's house, one of the kids on the street sees him and says, 'You're Black Falcon.'" He's like, yeah. Why is it Black Falcon? It's just Falcon. He's like, "No, my dad says it's Black Falcon." He's like, "Is it because I'm black? Are you Black Kid then?" And I thought that was a great interaction.
Yeah.
But when they come out, they're arguing on the street, and cops pull up and immediately start going after Sam and start asking Bucky, "Is this guy bothering you?"
Right.
Yeah. I heard that line and I was like, "Wow, that cuts."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it's so true.
Yep. And then they realize who it is, and they're like, and their attitude completely changes. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir." Mm-hmm. And then they realize though that Bucky's actually, there's a warrant out for Bucky's arrest because he missed his therapy appointment.
And thankfully after that, I mean, that was like, oh fuck. But then we get to some of the funniest shit in this episode.
It's the therapist showing up at the police station.
Yeah. And I loved how she knew Walker. Oh yeah, we did some ops together, and
well, yeah, and that's the thing. First, it's Sam talking with her and saying, "Thanks for getting him out." She's like, "It wasn't me."
Yeah.
And then Walker walks in, and And then she's like, all right, Bucky, come on, therapy now.
Yeah.
You too, Sam. He's like, no, I'm good. No, that wasn't a request.
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's the thing. You still got to consider. I mean, maybe, yeah, he's a free agent, but he works for the government. You know, he has government contracts as a free agent. So he's got to listen too, you know?
Yep.
And,
their
but
therapy session was hilarious.
It was great. Are you two having a staring contest?
Stop!
Just like
Jesus!
They're getting closer, pulling each other closer, and it's like,
well, you gotta move your leg.
And that's where we really saw. I mean, and then you see Bucky kind of open up, and it's like, well, if he was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me,
right? And that's where we get why Bucky's so pissed about Sam giving up the shield.
Yeah.
I love the names he calls them sometimes too. It's like, you know, moody staring guy and shit like that, or whatever it is.
But then they go outside, and Cap and Battlestar are waiting for him,
mm-hmm.
and
again trying to get them to
join
on board.
Yep. And they what is it after that? We go to the Flag Smashers again, I think.
Well, at the very least, they're trying to get him to sign up, and they basically just kind of go, listen, guy, and at first, you know, you think Sam's got, he goes, it's like, I get Walker's got a point here, and I get it, but ultimately, you guys work for your military, we're free agents.
Yep.
You have things that you have to
follow
approval for.
Yeah.
The next was that they, you know, they realized the involvement that Hydra must have had in this, and that led them straight to going to Zemo.
Yeah, and Sam and Bucky agree to go to see Zemo.
Yeah.
Once they get done talking with Cap, and then that's where the show ends.
Right. Yeah. And I do remember a point where Cap kind of says something like, you know, he says something kind of ominous, and it made me go, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. There's the John Walker that we kind of know from The Opportunist, the kind of guy we see in the comics.
You start seeing him. He sees things differently. Oh, the other thing is that when they're fighting on the back of the truck, at one point he just pulls out a gun and shoots one of the guys.
Yeah,
which is not like Steve in the MCU.
Right. Well, the guy's not a super soldier. No, he's just a soldier. A really good soldier.
Yeah.
So that makes sense that he'd have a gun, or that he would use a gun.
Yeah.
So then we go into episode 3,
which is another great episode, I thought.
And
we get a new buddy.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to team up with Zemo. Holy shit.
So it starts off with the whole thing with them going to see Zemo and Bucky saying, I need to go see him by myself. He's like, well, why? He's like, well, because you're an Avenger and you know how he feels about you. He's like, yeah, but you're a super soldier and you know how he feels about that. He's like, yeah, but he was obsessed with Hydra.
Yeah.
I got an in.
He was. Yeah.
I have to admit that, going back and Civil War was one of my least favorite MCU films.
I was just unhappy with the way that they handled it.
Yeah. And I'd always enjoyed, as a comic book fan, I've always enjoyed the villain of Baron Zemo. And I thought that really, I mean, you didn't have to make this guy in this movie Zemo. He could have been any schmuck.
Yeah.
But they made him Zemo. And I'm like, but this episode really helped in my mind as a comic book nerd to redeem the MCU version of the character of Zemo.
And that's I agree, man. They changed Zemo in this, and there's some holes.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Is there's some holes in the MCU between the Zemo from Civil War and the Zemo that we see in this.
Yeah. I think, but I agree. I gotta agree with Scott too. I've always kind of liked Zemo as a villain, as a Cap villain, and I didn't really care for them using him in Civil War. And I mean, Zemo's got a lot of interesting kind of legacy there. I mean, they've even tried to make him less of a villain, more of an anti-hero at some points in the comics, because he was the guy that started the Thunderbolts. And definitely
that's actually some of the rumors that are happening now, is that that's what they're doing here, and that they're going to wind up creating Zemo's Thunderbolts.
Okay, well, that would be interesting. A bunch of villains posing as heroes. I mean, the comic book itself, the original comic book of Thunderbolts, was very successful and ran for quite a while, and it was a pretty cool comic. I have the full run, and But I like the fact that, you know, Zemo, particularly in the comics, but also, I mean, not so much here, but in the comics, he's the son of a Nazi or somebody, or the son of a guy that worked with the Nazis, but not so much a Nazi himself. Like in the comics, he's a lot more about being an aristocrat. He's a lot more about there are certain people that are born to lead and that should lead. And because he's a baron, because he's royalty, that's one of the things that he's always been about.
Right.
He's like, he could give a shit if you're a Jew or if you're black or white or whatever. He's like, I'm better than you because I'm royalty, you know? And, but I like a couple of the nods too, like when he wears his coat with the big furry collar, that was something that was kind of in his superhero, in his supervillain costume in the comics. He always had a fur collar, like an ermine collar. So I thought that was kind of cool.
But yeah, so they wind up, Bucky works with him and breaks him out of jail without essentially without telling Sam, and then they go to a garage.
Helps him break
out. Yeah. But they go to a garage and Sam's like, "Why the hell are we here? You know, what's going on?" And he's like, "Well, hypothetically," he's like, "What did you do, Buck?"
Yeah, that was great. That was great. What did you do?
He's like, just hypothetically, if this happened, and basically as he's describing it, you're seeing Zemo do all of these things,
right,
to break out of prison. And so Zemo walks in at the end, and then they talk, and then they wind up going to Zemo's garage where he has all of these antique cars. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna do Grand Theft Auto now?" He's like, "No, these are mine." And he starts grabbing things, and like he opens the trunk of one, and you see the gold revolver and all the gold bullets, and
then his mask.
He goes into another one and grabs his mask and his coat out of that.
Yeah,
and then they head off to an airport where there's a private jet waiting for him, and Zemo's butler.
Yeah. If it passes the smell test, give it to them. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
if it doesn't.
But then they're talking about how, you know, where'd you get all this? He's like, "Well, I am royalty. I am a baron," which is where the hole is, because in Civil War he was not.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah.
So that's where there's a problem. So they get on the plane, and they start heading off. And
I like how CD keeps calling him the Hydra Batman, because he's rich and he's got a butler and
But while they're on the plane, they start talking about things, and one of the things that they talk about, and Zemo brings this up, and this is his whole thing, is that when you get people, because they're talking about like Steve Rogers and Captain America, and he said the problem with people like Steve is that we put them on pedestals. Yeah. And we forget about their faults.
Yeah.
And that's true. That's what happens with superheroes, is you don't see their faults. And it's the kind of thing that you see in The Boys big time.
Oh,
is
for
that
sure.
All those heroes are put on pedestals. They have press secretaries, all that stuff to keep things, you know, to only the public only sees what they want to see, want them to see. And that's what happens with superheroes. You don't see their faults. You don't see Tony Stark's alcoholism. You don't see, you know, all the other stuff.
You see Black Widow's history.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. It's true. You're right. And that's the thing, you know. I mean, we're like, Zemo's making some pretty serious points here. Some really amazing, like, good points.
Yep.
And it's scary.
And then they basically head off to Madripoor.
I just about jumped out of my seat.
Which we'll get to in just in a few minutes, because they basically change directions and head over there, and then we go to where we see the Flag Smashers. We see Carly playing with some kids, like playing soccer with some kids, and they basically tell her that so and so doesn't have much time, and we think she'd really like to see you, and they show her going to someone's bedside,
right,
and like just sitting with her while the woman passes.
Yeah, so we're seeing like the results of, once again, of some of the things we talked about before, about how the snap or the blip, I hate calling it the blip, how the blip really affected the world. Because
we started this episode actually with a commercial, which is was kind of with a commercial for the global relocation something.
Global repatriation.
Repatriation, that's what it is.
Repatriation.
Global Repatriation Organization or something like that, like GPO. And this is the people that the Flag Smashers are stealing from.
Right. Because it's the organization that's, trying to get, help people that, whose lives were completely disrupted by being gone for 5 years.
It's all the people, all the people that have come back from the blip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's, and the fact that, you put any kind of power in and like that, supply and demand and all these, like people that have control over supplies and over resources, there's going to be corruption, there's going to be failure on some level. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing these camps where people are living where they're not getting those proper supplies that they need. And that's why this woman's mother or aunt or whoever the fuck it was dying of tuberculosis, for crying out loud. So which is absolutely ridiculous in the 21st century that anybody's dying of tuberculosis. And so, like I'm getting more and more sympathetic to these Flag Smashers that are like, they're fighting to kind of fix things and try and help people, but they're going about it the wrong way.
Well, and the problem is they want things to go back to the way that it was during the blip, which means getting rid of half the people.
Yeah. It doesn't seem that they've really thought out exactly what it is that they're asking.
Right.
But yeah, so then go ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm interested to see if they flesh that organization out more, if they give us more detail and more depth, because they've done such a great job of giving us depth on all these other characters.
Yeah.
They can't skimp out on giving this organization depth. We've already seen that they're willing to go to lengths that basically make them terrorists, that make them villains.
Yes.
Yeah.
And obviously they believe in what they're doing, but I think we need to know more about what exactly is it that they're doing. What is it that they believe? What is their view? What is their worldview of peace?
Right, and the thing is that Carly Morgenthau is a gender flip of the actual Flag Smasher, Carl Morgenthau.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember what the Flag Smasher's name is.
Yeah, he's actually Carl Morgenthau. So Carly is actually a gender flip of that character. And instead of being the Flag Smasher, she's the head of the Flag Smashers.
Okay,
so
that's really fucking cool.
Yeah, and so with that, though, we get the guys arriving in Madripoor now. And they're walking across the bridge, and a car pulls up, they get in, and then they wind up getting escorted in by these motorcycles. And then they start walking, they show them just walking around town. And you know what my first thought was? They're in fucking Night City.
Yeah, no, me too. I was like, because, first of all, Madripoor. Now, Madripoor is a little more probably known for the X-Men line.
Yeah.
You see Madripoor a lot in the X-Men comics.
Which you even see a flash of Princess Bar.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which is Wolverine's favorite place. And I think he's actually part owner, isn't he?
Maybe. I don't know. Patch or Wolverine or Logan or Patch, however
I think he's Patch in Madripoor.
Yeah, he's got a lot of influence in that town. And it's like not Taiwan,
Singapore.
It's like Singapore, but 3 times as much criminal activity and
drugs
even
and
more
guns on the street. And...
Right, like the ultra rich living right next to the ultra poor. And when they were showing it, I was like, my God, I feel like I'm in Night City in Cyberpunk 2077. It was holy shit.
It was exactly the way I picture Night City, and it's the way that you see Night City. It's neon everywhere, and people with guns, and anything you want, you can get on the street.
I loved
the modern version of Port Royal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just
pirate mythology. It's Port Royal was that city in the Caribbean.
Yeah. No, and there's no rules or the laws are very loose, and I loved
the power broker is judge, jury, and executioner, as Zemo says at one point.
Right. So, I mean, they got to meet this woman that was, could hook them up with it and everything.
Selby.
And I loved the poor Sam trying to stay in character.
Well, that's the thing. So that's the thing is as they're getting there, as they're on their way, Zemo basically says we can't go in as ourselves. He looks at Bucky, says you have to be someone who you say is dead or is gone. And he tells Sam, you're going to have to be somebody else. And as they're walking in, Sam's dressed up in this just like really flashy suit. And he's like, why am I the only one that's dressed like a pimp?
Yeah.
And he basically says, only an American would think that you're dressed like a pimp.
Yeah, like a fashion forward person.
Yeah. And so they get in there, though, and he's Conrad Mack, the Smiling Tiger. Is who he's supposed to be. And I love when they go to the bar and the guy's like, your usual? And he's like, yeah. and he pulls a snake out of a jar and just slices it open, grabs like a couple of glands and drops them into a shot glass with some liquid.
Yeah. Stella was like, what do you think that is? I go, I don't know, it could be the venom glands. I'm not sure.
Well, the venom glands are normally in the like right in the
right in the neck, right. But I was like, I had no idea what it was, but whatever it was, he swallowed it.
And that's the thing. Zemo takes his shot and he's just like, he goes to take it, he's like, he just like makes the noise. He's like, looks at it and he's like, and then just shoots it.
And upends it, man. I was like, holy crap in a hat.
I love that.
But yeah, and then of course we get to the point, they're talking to the head, the mob boss or whatever.
Snake adrenal gland. That's what the
CD that what it was?
CD says adrenal gland shot.
So then he says his sister calls and blows the fucking.
Well, that's the thing. They're in talking with Selby. She's not buying it real well, and then all of a sudden Sam gets a call, and it's the sister. She's like, "Answer it on speaker."
Yeah.
And he's playing it off, and it's working until the kids start screaming in the background.
And then she says, Sam! And he's like, Sam,
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
But then all of a sudden Selby gets blown out through the chest from nowhere.
Right. Yeah. It was like, and so, yeah, then, chaos ensues. And at first I am thinking, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, Zemo's got his own agenda. They think they're using him. He's 5 steps ahead of them. He's got his own agenda.
Yep.
And you see him dart off, and I'm like, well, great, we're not going to see, he's going to do his own thing. But then when he came back to pick them up in that car or whatever, I was like, oh man, this is surprising, or when he came back,
that's the other thing
back up with them.
As they're trying to escape, they hear everybody's phones going off.
Right.
And you see one of the phones, and there is a 1,000 Bitcoin reward, which I guess is like $60,000 or something like that by today's
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
For them. So now they've got an entire criminal town after them.
Yeah. I mean, that was fast too, man. It didn't take any fucking time. For them to suddenly,
Well, the power broker don't fuck around.
No, apparently not. And thankfully, at this point, we also get to see the lovely Sharon Carter show up and
saves their ass.
And we get to learn that, Sharon Carter has apparently been in Madripoor for quite a while, building up a career as a counter spy or something like that.
The other thing go ahead. Sorry.
She's selling she's fencing art.
Yeah.
Art and artifacts and such.
Yeah.
And they talk about that, how
the real stuff is here.
Yeah, how like 70% of the art in all museums around the world is fake. But one of the things we glossed over actually though was the bar scenes and Zemo dancing.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to think about the fact that he talks about how he's a when you think about like he's
bad dancing.
Yeah. Zemo is an aristocrat. And before all of this stuff, like he probably spent time in Madripoor, and he probably spent time in all the big cities in Europe and in America and whatever else, partying it up, like living it up. So I wouldn't be surprised if Madripoor was one of his haunts, you know? I mean, he was obviously somewhat known at the very least. So, you know, to see him, it was like, yeah, I'm going to get my dance on. I've been in prison for 5 years. I'm going to get my dance on.
But yeah, so...
Because he didn't get blipped.
So it's actually been probably like 10 years for him then.
Yeah.
Or 6,
maybe,
7 years, something like that. But yeah, so we get that whole thing from Sharon. They're trying to convince her to help them. And she basically says, I didn't get a pardon.
Yeah.
She's still on the run. She still can't go back to the U.S.
Right.
And so basically Sam says, help us and I'll get your name cleared.
Mm-hmm.
And she finally agrees. So she helps them track down the creator of the super soldier serum.
The new one, yeah.
The new one, yeah. It leads them to a shipyard where there's a bunch of shipping containers. And she says, it's in this shipping container. And they head off, and she's like, I'll keep watch. They head off and walk into this empty shipping container. And then Zemo finds the secret door.
Right.
And they hear
please be a secret passage. Please be a secret passage.
And they head up these stairs into other shipping containers and find the lab where this guy has been holed up. Yeah.
So they talk to this doctor and everything, and they're talking to him about, you know, what happened and how and stuff. And apparently he had also been blipped and he came back, you know. And but one of the things that I thought was kind of cool is the fact that he expressed that he had gotten basically the samples that they had gotten were probably from Isaiah. And but one of the things I liked was that he talked about how he made it. He like distilled it. He basically perfected it in that no more clunky machines, no more like oversized, you know, people and whatever. I mean, it's much more hidden. So and that's the reason why all these new super soldiers, they don't look like they're super strong and agile or whatever else.
Yeah, the way Steve Rogers came out of that.
Right, exactly.
And he mentioned Erskine too.
He did, yeah, he did. He mentioned Erskine, and so I thought that was really, really fucking cool. You know, that was a cool attention to detail on that there. And then, of course, we see during the conversation and whatever, we see, and I knew this was going to happen, we see Zemo blow him away.
Yeah, well, the bounty hunter starts showing up.
Right.
And Sharon warns them, and Zemo's like, fuck it, and just shoots him.
Yeah. And I was like, this guy hates superhumans. He hates superheroes and superhumans. So, of course, he's going to kill the guy that was able to figure out how to make more.
Yep. And
I was like...
Huge fight ensues, including, like, rocket launchers and shit like that, and blowing up all the shipping containers, and they wind up finally getting out of there.
Yeah.
With Sharon's help, and then Sharon gets in a car with another woman and says something about like it's worse than I thought or something like that, and they head off. So she's got her own thing too. See, now this is an interesting thing because I'm guessing that Sharon wasn't completely honest with them about what she's been doing. I think she's been doing counter spy kind of stuff, and in the comic books they've established that Sharon Carter is part of a secret agency, a secret spy organization that is made up of essentially just women, like female superheroes and spies and counter spies. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is something that leads into something like that, but we'll see. I don't know. But then we go back to Carly and her, I think it's a boyfriend, scoping out one of the global repatriation locations, basically planning on hitting it. And they have a little talk about, you know, the world and things like that. You get a little bit of an idea of what they're seeing and why they're doing what they're doing. Right. A little bit more of their perspective, their global perspective. Mm-hmm. But then we go back and Cap knows we see Cap at the jail. And he basically says he knows that Sam and Bucky busted Zemo out. and that they're going to follow them on their own. And then we go back to Sam, that basically says they're back on the plane, I believe, at this point, and he says, I should have destroyed the shield rather than giving it up like that. And Bucky says that he'll take it from Walker himself before destroying it.
Yeah. It's I'm interested to see the direction that this is going to go with Walker and everything. I agree with Scott. You know, it's like the second episode made us like him a little bit more, but we all know the guy's going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because eventually Sam's going to get that shield and be the new Cap. But how is he going to fail? What is going to happen that's going to make him go, you know, to go bad or go wrong?
So then we get the Flag Smashers hitting the global repatriation site and stealing all the vaccines and food and things like that. And they show Carly leaving, and a bunch of the guards and stuff are all tied up in this one room, and she shuts the door on them. And as they're leaving, she tells her boyfriend, basically, put on your seatbelt, put it on now. And all of a sudden there's a car bomb that goes off that takes out the entire building. Right. And he says there were still people in there, and she said this is the only language they understand. So you see that she's going farther than even he was thinking they were ever going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and that's the part that's saying, you sympathize with their cause, but you realize that the level that they're willing to go to makes them terrorists. It's too far.
Yep.
It's beyond. I would just like to have a clearer picture of what is the what world is it that they see, that they want to see, because that's not completely clear. I think that the show is doing a fantastic job of giving us this very interesting kind of thrilling spy show, with all of that political intrigue and the espionage intrigue and such. But along the way, we're also getting this very gutsy look at race relations.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not shying away from it, and they're not giving us they're not focusing on it. It's not driving the plot, but it's definitely part of the plot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's really. I just think that's really smart.
Yeah.
Little bits, here and there. The conversation when the cops show up, when they're when Sam and Bucky are fighting in the street, and the cops show up. Just those little bits of lines, little lines and such, that the turn of the phrase was great. And even the conversation that Sam has with that kid before they go in to see Isaiah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you chuckle at it, but that's real.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, you look at the history of comics. I mean, you've got like Black Lightning, and
mm-hmm.
there was a Black Falcon, wasn't there? At one point.
No, there was a Black Goliath.
Oh, okay.
Black Goliath.
But they tended to do that a lot. Was if the hero was black, then they would put black in front of their name.
I'm like, for friends, there was Black Vulcan.
Black Vulcan. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was Scott? What were you going to say about Goliath? About Black Goliath?
Oh, Black Goliath. That character appears in Ant-Man and the Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh yeah, that's true.
He does.
He does. What's his
Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence Fishburne's character, right? Yeah. It's and they had
Bill Foster, isn't it?
Bill Foster, and Bill Foster ended up dying in Civil War. He was one of the characters that died. He was killed by the clone of Thor that Tony Stark had kind of created, and that was a kind of a big deal, But you're right. There were a lot of characters like that were. I mean, Black Panther was.
He gets a pass.
He gets a pass.
He's the only one that gets a pass.
He gets a pass. But there were characters like that, and thankfully we're beyond that. You don't see a character like That's named like that.
That was actually one of the things that came up earlier on in the second episode. Actually, though, is one of the things that Sam says to Bucky is, a little bit of time in Wakanda, you come out White Panther.
That was hilarious.
And he's like, he goes, actually, it was White Wolf. Mm-hmm. He's like, what? He's like, nothing.
Yeah. But that was funny. I would like to see like an explanation as to why they called him the White Wolf, but
anyway, so we're getting to the end of the season of the series, or I'm sorry, of the episode, and they're in, I forget which, they're in another European town, and the three guys, and Bucky notices something, and Sam and Zemo are heading in. He's like, I'll catch up with you. I got to take care of something. And they go in, and all right, they head inside, and he reaches down and picks up a little round, looks like a little round bead on the ground with something engraved on it. And he starts walking, and he picks another one up off the edge, and you realize that these are the beads from Wakanda that they use, that they have on their bracelets that they use to power things and do all these different things. And he's like, I think you dropped something.
Yeah.
And he's just like looking around, and then he turns and he's like, I was wondering when you were going to show up, and it's Ayo.
Yeah. It's one of the Dora Milaje from Black Panther. And I was like, of course. Yeah. I mean, Zemo's out. And Zemo killed their king.
Yeah. She's like, I'm here for Zemo.
Yeah.
And that's where the episode ended.
And I was like, oh, fuck. So, I mean, that's really awesome. I'm loving how they pulled that aspect in too. I was not expecting Wakanda stuff.
Well, he even says, he's like, you got here fast.
Yeah,
I think.
So, well, you got to know the Wakandans were probably keeping an eye on Zemo, in his prison in Germany. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're and they probably one of the first people they probably knew that he had escaped before anybody else.
Yep.
So
yeah,
I'm excited.
We're halfway through the series now.
Yeah, that's surprising, too. It is only a 6-episode series. So we've got pretty much to the end of the month, I think.
Yep. I've often said that I wish, and I'm getting my wish, I wish that more comic book properties were presented in television format. Mm-hmm. Because it mirrors the comic book so much better. It is, comic books are serialized melodramas.
Right.
A television series is a serialized melodrama.
I would so much prefer to. I mean, as much as I love the movies and I love what they've done with the MCU, particularly, I would so much rather have these turned into 6 episodes shows or 8 episode shows.
I'm the same way with the Dresden Files. I would love to see that as like a show like this, like on like Netflix or Prime or something like that, where they can do it justice and do each book as an 8 to 10 episode season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that would be fantastic. But one of the other things I wanted to cover real quick that, because we're actually at the 2-hour mark, so we got to get going. But as they're walking up at the end there, they start talking, and Zemo's talking about Sokovia.
Yeah.
And how it was cannibalized by its neighbors and erased from the map. And one of the things that I'm wondering is if this is actually leading into Latveria.
Yeah, the introduction of Latveria. Perfect. Perfect place to do that. Oh man, that would be awesome.
Yep.
We should wrap things up, Scott.
And Ghost Hand just said, I hope this Zemo is Marvel testing the waters for a possible Doctor Doom. There'll be different characters, but yes, I think that's what they're leading up to. Is that I think we may even see at some point Zemo versus Doom, if the way that they're setting this up.
Well, as much as I like Baron Zemo, Doctor Doom would clean his clock. There's nothing.
Yeah, but I just think that's kind of the thing they're setting up. But
so anyway,
it'd be awesome to see
Mads Mikkelsen for Doom, please.
That'd be
awesome. Oh yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Scott, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, as wonderful as it would be to see Dr. Doom, I just can't imagine seeing him before you see the Fantastic Four.
I agree.
I really thought we were going to see. I thought we were going to get Reed Richards in WandaVision. I thought he was going to be the aerospace engineer that she knew. Her guy.
There were a lot of people that were making that guess, but I don't think
they're saying that he could still be her guy.
Sure. Yeah. I just know that I'm fairly certain that there's no way they're going to introduce a property as big as the Fantastic Four in one of these TV shows. Like, it's not going to be just some throwaway. It's going to be something bigger.
It's going to be a post-credit scene in some Marvel movie. That's going to be the hint at it.
It's going to be the teaser.
It'll be the teaser for it, and then everyone's going to lose their shit.
Yeah.
That was the first comic book I ever read.
FF, really?
Yeah, it was a Fantastic Four comic.
Huh. For me, it was Wolverine, actually.
So,
I take that back. It was the first one I really remember was that. The first one I ever had was an Avengers comic, actually.
I couldn't tell you. I think it probably like
an
early Justice League
downstairs.
Book.
Oh my gosh!
For me, it was probably like an early Justice League book. Well, Scott, thanks for joining us 2 weeks in a row. It's been great to have you on. Me. Yeah, guys, be sure to check out Scott's artwork, Artworks Arcana, on Facebook and on Etsy. He's got some great gaming stuff, some great designs, t-shirt designs. I own 2 of them myself and have purchased another one before. You guys can. There's a couple of different ways that you can buy his stuff, either directly through Etsy or what is the other?
Store Frontier Artworks Arcana.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Store Frontier has all my t-shirts, and Etsy has my hats and coffee mugs.
Right. So
have you done the monk yet? Because I know you.
Yes.
Done it.
Yes,
okay.
I do. I do have a monk.
I heard that you hate
t-shirt.
monks. That's why you actually didn't.
It's in D&D terms. It's like they're like the kitchen sink. It's like everything. They're just able to do everything.
We have a monk in our group, and it is it is his wife, and we had a great moment in last session where we found out that she's now essentially a secret agent for her monk, her order of monks, and so the theme or the name of the episode is called Secret Dwarven Monk. Secret Dwarven Monk.
Yeah, and our bard was actually singing that, and he actually did create a song called Secret Dwarven Monk.
Of course.
It was really great. So, but yeah, be sure to check out Scott's work, guys, and throw him a couple of bucks. Get yourself a t-shirt. It's they're really great. And you guys, you can find us at all the places you can find quality podcasting, ladies and gentlemen. We're on iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, radio.com, and of course you can download and stream all of our shows from nerdswithalcoholshow.com. Guys, we are on every 8 o'clock Tuesday night here on Twitch, Drinking Nerds, and then we put the show up again a couple days later on YouTube, also on Drinking Nerds.
Or a couple weeks later if I'm late.
Yeah,
I just put up I put up the last 2 episodes today.
Yeah, you're a little late, but that's all right. And then this Friday, guys, we have Tavern Nights.
Tavern Nights.
Our D&D game every other Friday at 7 o'clock. Be sure to tune in, check us out, watch us stumble around as currently 6th level characters.
Yep.
We're going to be getting on a boat soon.
Yeah. I'm on a boat. But yeah, so you can also follow us on most of the social medias. We are on Facebook. Nerds with Alcohol Show. We are on Twitter and Instagram, Drinking Nerds. And then if you're on Untapped, the beer drinking app, you can search for Drinking Nerds. Send us a friend request, and we will get you added. So
thanks again, Scott. We should. I definitely want to have you on more regularly.
Yeah, it's cool having you on. I also want to thank all of the people in the chat, CD, Ghost Hand, Renee, everybody for hanging out. Everybody else that was on there.
We had a couple
that came in and
too.
said hi to us, or didn't necessarily say hi, but that's fine. Thanks a lot for hanging out.
Yeah.
We appreciate all of you. Please, if you haven't already, please follow us. We can use the follows. We're getting close to affiliate status with Twitch, which would help us out a lot. So
we are at 38. We need 12 more, guys. That would be great. Scott, maybe we'll have you on for the finale of Winter Soldier, so you can talk finale with us. And
that sounds great. I'd love to.
A couple of weeks. And all right. Is there anything else, Chris?
Nope. I think that's it. Okay. So I think that's gonna about do it.
Okay.
So until next time.
Until next time.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
All right. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.